everybody. My name is Penda James, and I would love to welcome you to the Resilience Project. What you're watching or listening to are conversations that I'm having with people that I care about. And each of these conversations is a declaration. I am so excited to introduce my friends to my friends so that we can all do great work in the kingdom. And today, I want to introduce you to somebody who is really special to me. Her name is Christine Arnett. I met her in 1998, a long time ago in Cincinnati, Ohio. A long time ago. We were in a program called Public Allies. She was in my group and we did a lot of community service work together, a lot of personal development, crying, growing, serving together. And I really am honored to introduce you to someone who's become like a sister to me. And I know you're going to be inspired by her story. So Christine is a mom. She is a wife. I was in her wedding. That makes me so happy.
I was going to say, forget that, Penda.
And she is a teacher. She loves young people. She serves wholeheartedly in her community in a whole lot of capacity. So you're going to hear about that a little bit later. So Christine, is there something that I didn't say about you that you want our listeners to know?
No, I think you covered it.
Okay.
But I do want them to know that I was very blessed that you wrote an original piece and poem and read it in my wedding. And that was really special and beautiful.
Yay, thank you. My father-in-law is very special to me. So this is so awesome. And I'm excited to have this conversation because we have only been able to be in contact through social media. So I haven't seen you in person for a long time. But I've watched a lot of the things that you do. So when we talk about your declaration for leaders today, your declaration is, I'm an advocate. So can you define for us what it means to be an advocate?
I think for me, for a really long time, I'll be honest, I thought being an advocate was your beliefs, your feelings, how you treated others. And I do think that that's a part of it. But for me, advocacy really came when I turned that into action and started acting on those thoughts and beliefs. So to me, advocacy is taking action to make things better for people.
So how has advocacy been a thread throughout your life?
Well, I would say that I've always been the kind of person who has felt very strongly about justice and equality and love and community service and all of those things. Even from when I was little, that was just part of, I had friends who said, oh, it's because you're a Libra and it's the whole balance in the scales and the justice and all of that. But I never, I'll be honest with you, Penda, the wake-up call was for me the election in 2016 of turning those beliefs and those thoughts into action. It was that moment where I thought, I can't just sit around anymore and wait for other people to do the work. And being a lifelong introvert, it was really scary for me to do the work and put myself out there and step up for people in a more action-based way. And it woke me up. And I cried for 2 straight days after the election and then said, okay, put your big girl pants on and do something about it. Quit sitting around and waiting for other people to do it. You have some privilege in the space that you have in this country. Use it. Fight for the people who need to be fought for and step up. And so I did. And it was a huge leap outside of my comfort zone. I love that meme that has the great big circle that says your comfort zone, and then the little bitty one that's like, it says like where the magic happens. And I decided to step outside my comfort zone and get involved and, get out there and literally, take to the streets and make calls and be a part of advocating for change in more than one way. So
in more than one way. So can you
yeah,
talk about some of those ways that you're making change?
sure. Well, the one that I'm sporting today, St. Baldricks, when we talked about this and talked about like advocacy and my advocacy with St. Baldricks, which for people who don't know, St. Baldricks is an organization. It's the largest, I guess they're a nonprofit, that organization that raises money for childhood cancer research. Only 4% of the US federal cancer fund dollars go to pediatric cancer. So tiny amount. And so St. Baldricks stepped in and tries to make up that gap. They are the largest funder of childhood cancer research grants in the world. So I had, when my daughter was in preschool, when she was 3, she was in class with a little boy who was diagnosed with cancer at 3. And I then had, because she was at preschool in the school where I teach. And I then had his 2 brothers as years went on. And so I got to see that family's journey through cancer and thankfully into remission, and got to see their involvement in St. Baldricks. And parents are real go-getters. They never questioned that they were going to get their kid through it, but they did a lot of research and found out about St. Baldricks and said, look, if we want to change the cures and change the treatments and find a cure, we got to go with St. Baldricks. So I got to see their involvement in that. And always said, I would like to do that someday. I just would really like to, but never jumped in. And when we talked about this being a part of the Resilience Project, it dawned on me that the reason I stepped into St. Baldricks had to do with resilience. My husband and I, that was years ago. Okay, so that happened, years went by, and I was always thinking, oh, I'd like to do that sometime, but it's kind of scary. And I don't, my husband and I were going through, Kevin and I were going through a really tough financial space. And I always liked to give to charities. And that was a big part of my passive advocacy and action, was to donate what we could, even when we didn't have a lot. But we were in a really tough spot and we just didn't have anything to give. Like it was, how are we going to pay for groceries?
Yeah.
So I got a request letter in the mail from an organization that we had supported for years. And that day it just hit me. And I just started crying because we couldn't help them. I'm getting emotional. But I looked up on my fridge and I had a note that I had seen somewhere, this quote that spoke to me. And it said, if you have much, give of your wealth. If you have little, give of your heart. And I said, that's it. I'm doing St. Baldricks. I can do that. I don't have money, but I can give of my heart and I can give of my hair. So I did. So I called Kevin and I was like, hey, I'm shaving my head for St. Baldricks. And he was like, okay, can I ask why? Where is this coming from? And that's what started. And so it was finding a way that that I could do something, because I think that's a big part of advocacy is you don't always have to have the money. You can have the heart and the drive and find your resilience in that. So that's how I got started, is giving of my heart. And I just shaved for the 7th year and really questioned how much I was going to be able to raise. And my stepdad challenged me that first year and said, go for 10,000. And I was like, okay, I was thinking I could raise like 1,000. And he was like, go for it. What's it going to hurt? If you do it, if you don't, you don't, but go for it. Try. And my donors and I just hit $100,000 raised in 7 years for kids with cancer. So, and then also, so 3 years, I did St. Baldricks for 3 years. And the 2016, as I was telling you, when it hit me so hard, I was really in a tough space, and I had jumped into putting myself out there more, getting involved in Louisville Democratic Club and going to the Women's March and just, writing senators and doing all this stuff. And I thought, okay, I can't, something's got to give. I can't, I've only got so much. So it broke my heart, but I was like, I can't do St. Baldricks this year. I made a decision in December, because that's usually when I start. And I said, I just can't do it this year. And I decided that night, it's just, I've got to set some boundaries. And I literally went to school the next day, and another little boy had been diagnosed with cancer. And I said, okay, this is the universe telling me that it doesn't care that I'm stressed or that I'm, it's not about me. It's about more than me. And you have to do this. So back in, and I went, and I've been doing it since. So that was also a moment of resilience where I was just like, oh, I can't do it. And then just said, no, again, put the big girl pants on, let's go. So that's what started. That's why I chose to do it again in 2017, and then have done it since.
So every year you color your hair a special color. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I started that. Actually, it might have been the year after. I've done it for 3 years now, because I noticed that donations were starting to slip a little bit. And, it's like, you're kind of asking some of the same people, and they're like, oh, she's been there, done that. It's not, the excitement's gone when you've seen me bald so many times. And so I thought, well, hey, let me do something crazy and different. So I went green to raise green kind of thing. So I did a bright green. And then the second year that I did it, little Drew, who was the second little boy diagnosed with cancer, he was going to be completing his almost 3.5 years of cancer treatment, of chemo. And so I said, in honor of him getting to, completing this tough journey that he had been on, that he could pick any color he wanted, and I would dye my hair whatever color he wanted. Thankfully, he picked red, because his parents said he was going to pick orange. And I was not feeling orange, but I would have done it in a heartbeat for that baby.
Okay.
So the second year I did red. Yeah. And then this year it was just people started saying, oh, what it's coming. What color are you going to be? And so it's just kind of become this fun thing where now people are just kind of interested. So yeah, this year I was like a turquoise.
Yep, it was turquoise.
Yeah.
I'm feeling the emotion, because I just know how much you love people and how much you love doing this for people. And so I just want all of the advocates out there to know, like, the passion is real. And so it's okay to feel that way and to be emotional. Like, that's how you know it's real. And I tell people sometimes the tears is your passion overflowing.
There you go.
So
I'll remember that.
Tears is your passion.
Easy to cry person. I'll remember that.
Yes. I also wanted to bring into the conversation something that we talked about this summer with, it was tough in Kentucky this summer.
Yes.
And I got really, really worried.
Specifically in Louisville.
In Louisville, yes.
Which is where I'm at.
I got really, really worried about you, because I knew that you were like not taking it well, what was happening around you. And so can you talk a little bit about how you as a leader out there in the streets and trying to advocate for people, like literally you were out there in the streets advocating for—
not as much as I normally would have with COVID. It's been difficult for me. It's reconciling with that.
But you were on your porch writing letters until your hand hurt, and you were on your porch like with cats in the dark trying to get people to vote. Like, you put everything you had into everything that you could do. So could you just talk a little bit about how a leader who feels like they're giving everything they have, even if it's a little bit, can keep going?
Well, and that's what when you were saying earlier about like what do I want people to know about advocacy? That's something that I think is really important, is that you have to find the lane that's comfortable for you and do something. I started off, honestly, what kicked my action was going to the Women's March in Washington, D.C. However, a lot of what has felt good for me is writing postcards, calling my legislative hotline and leaving messages. During the session, I might call 3, 4, sometimes every day a week if there's a lot going on. Finding little, it doesn't have to be everybody. It takes all of us to make change. So for some people, that is being on the street every day, blocking traffic, getting arrested. That's your lane. And if that is what works for you, we need those people. If your lane is reaching out to your senators and your representatives and your local council people, that's important too. We need all of everybody to come at this from multiple angles. And so the times, especially over the summer, and that was hard for me, I had enormous guilt not being there during the Breonna Taylor protest. I did go to one as things settled. But I had a lot of guilt because in a normal time I would have been there. But I just, with my grandparents and COVID, I just felt like it wasn't the right space for me at that time, safety wise. But I had somebody say to me, like, but we need you, making a change on the ground too. Like, if we want real change, we also have to have real leaders, different leaders. We have to have different people in our representatives. We have to have people who are changing laws, who are changing the system. And that's okay if that's the lane that works for you. And so that was the way that I felt I can make a difference. And that worked for me. I worked really hard, like going out and doing literature drops. And this introvert hates door knocking and calling people.
Yeah.
But a literature drop works for me. You're going and you've got to, I might have gone and walked 8-10 hours in a weekend, just putting, candidate literature on doorknobs and things like that. So I felt like that you just find what's comfortable for you and do something, even if it's just something little. If you say, well, I'm not really comfortable calling and talking to people. Okay, then find a group that will, is writing postcards or is having conversations in small group setting. Just find some way that works for you. Because that I kept saying to myself, well, you are making a difference. You're just doing it differently.
Yes.
You're working to try to change the system. And if that's where you can be right now, at least you're trying. So.
And every time something would happen, it would like stoke that fire in you to the point where you were just like, I have to write 100 cards before I go to bed tonight. And I'm like, no, go to bed. Like, those cards will be there. Go to bed.
I know. And I stepped up a couple times and made phone calls, which is a huge out of my comfort zone, to like call people and try to get them out to vote. And I did a lot of phone banking, which is a challenge for me. I always felt good at it when I finished it, but I felt so drained and exhausted. And so I finally had to start learning, like, okay, this is helpful and you can do a little bit of it, but it drains you to the point where then you feel this need to step back and not be involved. Yes. So that's why I try to tell people, find what feels comfortable to you enough that you will keep doing it. Because if you're doing something that's so far out of it that you're just like, then, okay, peace out. That was too much. I didn't like it. Find some way to help, because there are lots of different ways to volunteer and be an advocate. There's not just one way.
There's not just one way.
Yes.
Is there anything else you want to add to the conversation or things that we've talked about for leaders who might be out there like feeling discouraged in their advocacy? Or
I think we just have to keep going. I mean, I think you have those days where you feel like, okay, we've taken 2 steps forward and 4 steps back. And it's so hard because you see, I mean, you see the conviction
Yeah.
that happened the other day, and then literally the same day, you
Yeah.
know, you're dealt with something happening again, and it feels like, is it going to change, you know? But I think we have to keep going forward, and I think when you look backward, you know, you look back to where we came, there is almost always forward progress. We just have to keep pushing. And if you have those days where you're feeling that way, sometimes I feel like, okay, have that moment, have that day, wallow in it,
Mhm.
feel the feels, and feel that, like, okay, today sucks and today feels like things aren't going to get better. And then the next day, okay, I had my moment. I had my little pity party about things not feeling like they're going to change or be different. What am I going to do today to do something about it? Like, feel the feels and then get up and move on. Find a way to do something. And I think, you know, if you find some sort of way to get involved, you're not going to ever sit back and say, well, what could I have done?
Mhm.
You know, so if that means that you found enough time to write like a few postcards to people to try to get out the vote, or to register to vote, or to do something along those lines, at least you know that you tried. And I found that mentally it made all the difference in the world for me. And I know it's not about me, but you do have to take care of yourself too, or you burn out and you're not going to do anything. So it does feel good to do something. So just find some way to do something.
Yes. Thank you, Christine. I mean, you're amazing.
I get all theory.
It's okay. It was that passion spilling out. You know, you gave someone else permission to let their passion overflow today. So thank you for your willingness. I know you were nervous, but
I'm nervous. I don't like talking in front of people.
but this was a really, really important conversation for us to have, because we need to see that there are advocates out there. You know, we need to see what the passion looks like when it overflows, even when it doesn't look like us.
Well, and can I say this too, that obviously if you hear like how nervous I am and how like I'm getting all emotional and crying, and partly that's because of nerves. If I can do some of this stuff as this like anxiety anxious introvert, you can do it. Like you can do it. You can find ways to do stuff, no matter whether you're a big personality that's going to be out there with the megaphone, like leading the chants, or you're going to be or you're the person, and you will find strength and power, and it will build you up when you start doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you just got to take those first steps. You just have to take the first steps, and then you will find power and passion and strength in that, even if you're a little introvert like me. So
I didn't know I was going to get emotional. I was already emotional. Thanks, Christine. But I'd like to end our time together just with a few seconds of silence for young people who have childhood cancer, for Breonna Taylor and her family, for a lot of so many names that we can't name, of lives that were lost in the Black Lives Matter movement. And I just want to take a moment of silence for advocates like Christine, who put themselves and their love in front of themselves. I hope that makes sense. Who put their love for other people in front of themselves. Excuse me. We love you so much for being here with us today. And if you want more information, you can research St. Baldricks. You can research who your governors and congressmen and senators are. And with that, we take a moment of silence.